Welcome to Jack Fleming Artistry. If you read the title to this video, then you know that today I'm making a sign for t-shirts. A couple years ago, I was at a Good Guys show and I was walking through and looking at all the vendor booths and stuff, and I noticed a couple of booths that had a lot of t-shirts and stuff, and I've got friends that sell a lot of t-shirts and stuff for their booth. It's kind of almost all some of them do at shows, and I like that. I love vending at shows. And I love it when you see a big wall of t-shirts for a company, and that's a goal that I've been working on. I've got all these t-shirt designs that I've made here, kind of run through them here with you. And I've had a goal to make it to where I have a whole wall of t-shirts at my booth. And I'm getting close. I really am. And I was sitting there with some friends of mine at the truck gathering in Oklahoma here recently. And I had all my t-shirts up on one wall, but no signage for them. And I thought, man, I'm a sign painter. Or I try to be a sign painter. And I need a sign for them. I need to sell my t-shirts and not just have them there on display. I made me a sign for them, and I decided to make a video while doing it. And I'm going to show you guys the process of what I did. Let's get started. A lot of times I draw out my signs on paper first, and then I transfer it onto the board that I'm going to make it on. This time, however, I did not. I just drew it straight out on the board. And since this is a sign for me personally and not one for a customer, I used some recycled materials in order to make my sign. My friend Steve that I share my shop with threw away a dresser recently, and he had it out by our dumpster here, and I was looking at it, I thought, man, all the drawer faces on that look like they could be good signs. So I broke it down, and I've had them sitting in here in the studio for quite a while, so when it came time to do this, I knew exactly what I wanted to make it on. Pulled a piece out from my shelf that I keep stuff on to paint, cleaned it up, drew out what it was that I wanted on my sign here, and got to painting. I'm using one-shot enamel, sign painter's enamels here, and a MAC brush. Probably one of my most used brushes, a MAC Series 169. Used a variety of different sizes. This one's a little bit bigger one, I believe a size 8. And this actually isn't white that I have here. It's white where I mixed a little bit of teal into it. So if I wanted to, I could come back and pop some white highlights on it. But at the same time, I like mixing a little teal into it so that that color has a little in it of the other colors that I wanted to use. Big key on signage is contrast, and the highest contrast thing that I wanted to the black background, or the kind of black background, was going to be the whitish letters that say t-shirts. Second highest contrast thing that I wanted was the part with the price. My main sign for my vending booth is black with teal and purple and white. So I'm sticking to those colors on this sign here, and went ahead and filled this circle in around the price with that kind of tealish color. So after doing that, to kind of make the letters on this more fun for myself to paint, but at the same time kind of have some dimension and all to them, I went ahead and took some of that teal, mixed it with some of the white that I had used on the letters, and created a little shadow on the inside of the letters. After that, I created, I guess you call it a drop shadow or a three-dimensional part of the letters here with a purple. Matched the purple on my sign that I had. It's not as high contrast as the letters themselves, so the letters still stand out an awful lot, but it gives it some depth, some character, a little bit of dimension. And again, dimensional letters are fun to paint. Might be a good thing to mention here is when you draw off dimensional letters like this, these 3D letters, keep the diagonals parallel to each other. That way there's uniformity throughout the whole thing, and it doesn't look like your letters are coming from all sorts of different directions. I decided rather than have black for the numbers, that I went ahead and put that purple in there. It's still a really good dark to light contrast from that light teal, but again, it brings that purple over to that side of the sign and helps create some color balance. You might notice when you're pulling these strokes with the brush, I'm actually twisting the brush and having the side of the brush end in the corner of the number. Here I've switched to a smaller brush, still a 169, but I believe this one is a size 2, and I'm using this one to do the dollar symbol. I really like on some of the grocery store signs that I've seen done by people like John Downer, a couple other folks, where they have the dollar sign really small and skinny as a big contrast to the big fat numbers. I think that's kind of cool. So credit to those guys. They're masters at what they do. Always try to look at people that you really look up to. See what you can learn from them. You know, with that in mind, another person that I've been looking at an awful lot for a long time and learning stuff about lettering is Glenn Weisgerber. We actually just had him on our podcast, the Pinstripers podcast. Really good to listen to. He's putting out a lot of like step-by-step posts here recently with some of the signs that he's making. And I love the way that he makes his outlines, and then he also comes back and he does what's called a trap line around even the dimensional part. And we'll do that in this too. But find heroes, find good heroes. Look at what it is that they're doing and try to learn from it. Borrow some of those things and figure out how to do them yourself. I thought it was really cool whenever we interviewed Glenn. He talked about how many things he borrowed from somebody else that we interviewed, Tom Kelly. Like I said, I can't say enough about having paint heroes or art heroes. This is that trap line I was mentioning. So for this, I wanted a high contrast color, but I didn't want it to really take away from the white. Again, the white's got to be the highest contrast. This part right here is to let your eye know that there is a dimensional thing going on with the letters there. Kind of holds it all together. I think that's why they call it a trap line. It's trapping everything in. I could be wrong. If somebody knows, please let us know in the comments. I am using a different brush for my outlining here. This is what's called a snakebite brush. This is made by Alpha 6 Company. I really like this as a liner. Probably my favorite liner brush. And now I've switched over to yet another brush. This is a size 4 Mac Virus 2 brush. Kind of like a liner, comes to a bit of a point. I really like it for doing these fat outlines, and I like using it for scripts and stuff, because with that size 4, I can go from really skinny to really fat with the same brush. Again, same brush right here. Not as fat as it was making the circle around the price, but I'm able to get these letters and stuff here for the t-shirt sizes on there pretty consistently. Mentioned contrast before. T-shirts is what's most important. So it's the biggest, it's the highest contrast in color. To contrast that again, I made the word sizes skinny, right? So we've got fat letters to skinny letters. It gives us variety in our sign. Variety makes things exciting. So here, after I've done all the lettering and stuff, I'm taping off just a guideline for me to go ahead and pull a pinstripe outline border. And you'll notice whenever I go to pull the line, if you look real close after I'm done taping here, I'm not touching the tape with the brush. I'm about, 2 or 3 hairs away from that tape. It's just a visual guide to keep my eye straight. And what I did on the color for this, I actually took all the colors that I used, the teal, the purple, the white, the orange, and I mixed them together to make kind of a gray color. I like using the colors already there to make my gray as opposed to black and white. That way it has some unity. All those colors have something in common. Makes them look like they belong together. I tend to put a little bit of every color that I'm using inside of each other. So again, you can see right here, the brush is not touching the tape. There's just a little, not even, it's probably a half of a brush width between the brush and the tape. Just try to pull that in one long, consistent line if possible. And then last but not least, the cherry on top. Once it's finished, signing it. And again, with my signature, I don't want it to stand out the most. I'm using a color that stands out some, but it's probably one of the least contrasting colors to that background. Cool colors recede. This isn't a billboard for my name, it's a billboard for t-shirts. If y'all have any questions about this, any of the products being used, feel free, ask them in the comments and stuff. If I don't get to it and answer it, maybe somebody else will. I might not have the answer to your question, but maybe somebody reading it does. You know, if you're that person with the answer, feel free to answer other people's questions too. And here is the finished version. Didn't show you me putting the highlights in there, but I've got some highlights. And now the full thing. A little funny story for the end of this here. I actually used this sign this past weekend at a show that I worked. It was the first one that I've put this up with all my t-shirts and stuff. And I'd have people stand in front of the sign looking at all the shirts and still ask me how much they are. I don't know. It's kind of funny. I see people all the time asking questions about stuff that is on signs and not reading the signs. But hey, all we can do is try to make them stand out, try to grab their eye. Hopefully I did that with this one. If y'all liked it and enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. I've got a series that I've got to get back to about color theory and pinstriping, and I've just been really busy lately. Hoping to get back on that here soon. But y'all have a good time. Have a good day. Get your brushes wet if you paint. Go out and make something, whatever it is you guys do. And see you later.